So in this class we are going to discuss about a term which is called thermoelectricity. So as the name implies, it is something which is related to temperature and current. So it is actually a direct conversion from temperature to electric current. So this has been widely used for various applications and which spans from medical use, industrial use, and also even in your smart watches. So what is the basic, in this session we are going to understand what is the basic principle in thermoelectricity and the certain features and factors and effects which are discussed in thermoelectricity. So the major, all these applications that we have seen, that is shown here is comprises of a fundamental unit which is known as thermocouple. Thermocouple. So as the name indicates, here also thermo, which means that temperature, and here I have written couple. So definitely this consists of two entities. So in thermoelectricity, we are mainly deals with metals. So here it is coupled means two different or dissimilar metals. So two dissimilar metals are joined together in one way to generate temperature or vice versa to give you electricity. So the mode in which it is being coupled determines the properties of your thermocouple and also the choice of your material. That is, in this I have said coupled. So definitely two metals are involved. So the choice of the metal also determines the properties which we have displayed here. So for example, in the case of space application, the couple or the metals, which the choice of the thermocouple will be quite different from the one that is going to be used in your smartwatch, or that will be different from the one which is being used for medical applications. Next terminology that we are going to discuss is thermo-EMF. EMF is nothing but electromotive force. So thermo-EMF, when you have two junctions or when you have a couple and it forms a loop-like structure. For example, like this, you have a structure like this. So you have, these are two different metals. Let us write it as A and B. So this forms a loop, and if you give some temperature difference between these two couples, it will generate a thermo-EMF. Thermo-EMF. It generates a thermo-EMF. Or rather you can say that a current flows through this loop, which is termed as thermoelectric current. Thermoelectric current. And the direction of the current in this diagram I have plotted from A to B. That depends upon the choice of your couple. The choice of the metals that you are using for your thermoelectric generation. So these are some of the terminologies that is associated with thermoelectricity. Now so the importance of this thermo-EMF or thermoelectric current is that this can be used. It is widely used in the current technology because the thermo-EMF that is generated because of the difference in temperature is of the order of millivolt, which is very small voltage, which is very much adaptable to the current electronics, so that it can be coupled to various devices to read the temperature value very specifically, especially in outer space applications, medical applications. In all these things you require a very specific temperature, and for that this accuracy can be maintained because the thermo-EMF that is generated is very small and it is adaptable to the current electronics. So this is the representation of a modern technology that has been used in BMW cars, so that a thermo-EMF is generated which can be used to optimize the fuel that is being controlled in the device, in the automobile. So that is the importance of thermo-EMF being used in thermoelectricity. Now let us now discuss the different properties or the different effects that is related to your thermoelectricity. So the major effects that is discussed in thermoelectricity is Seebeck effect, Peltier effect and Thomson effect. So in this session we will be discussing about Seebeck effect, which was discovered by Seebeck, and it was an accidental discovery in his part. Initially it was thought to be some magnetic effect in the case of the current that is flowing through a metal, but later it has paved the way and opened a large branch of thermoelectricity. So as the name implies, or as the name of the thermocouple comes from, it is actually the development of EMF when you have a thermocouple A and B which is kept at two different temperatures. This end can be kept at a hot end and this is termed as the cold end. So if you are heating at this end and keeping this temperature at this junction a constant, say you can keep it at 0 degrees Celsius, and slowly you can heat this junction, and a current that will flow through this particular loop of the combination of, depending on the combination of A and B, from A to B or B to A, depending on whether the material is in the series which is given by, again by Seebeck. That is, the series has a large number of elements as shown here, and it is in the increasing order of their thermo EMF. So the higher one in the series and the lower one in the series, the more the higher one and lower one, if the difference is larger, you will have a larger thermo EMF that is generated. So the choice of the material is always taken into consideration, keeping this fact. So generally you have a copper iron thermocouple. So in the copper iron thermocouple, let's say this is copper and this is iron. So always the current that is flowing through the hot junction is taken into account, or for definition purpose we take the current that is flowing through the hot junction. So the current that is flowing through the hot junction always depends on the series, that is at the position of these elements in the series. So in the case of hot junction, the current flows from copper to iron, since the thermo EMF of copper is smaller compared to that of the iron. So the current flows from copper to iron in this case. So this has been discovered by Seebeck, and when he reversed the junction, that is when he reversed the cold and the hot junction, he found that the thermo EMF also reverses. So definitely Seebeck effect is a reversible change or a reversible effect. So this, so as you can see here, if you plot a graph between the temperature of the hot junction versus thermo EMF. So actually what is done is, both are kept at the same temperature, and one of the junction will be given, will be heated initially. So as you heat this junction, say let's mark this as A and B here. So if this junction A is heated, slowly the thermo EMF starts to increase, and it is found that as you increase the hot junction, the thermo EMF increases and reaches a maximum value, and thereafter it decreases to 0. And this temperature at which the temperature of the hot junction at which the thermo EMF becomes maximum is known as neutral temperature, which is marked as Tn. And as we again further increase the hot junction, temperature of the hot junction, the thermo EMF starts to decrease and it reaches 0 at a particular temperature, and thereafter if you again increase the temperature of the hot junction, the thermo EMF reverses its direction. And this happens at a temperature which is marked as temperature of inversion. So a neutral temperature is the temperature at which the thermo EMF is maximum, and temperature of inversion is the temperature in which the thermo EMF changes its direction. So as long as this neutral temperature is concerned, it is independent of the temperatures of both the junctions. That is your cold junction. This is being heated. So definitely it depends upon the neutral temperature, depends on this hot junction. At a particular value of this neutral hot the temperature of your hot junction, you have this neutral temperature. So it is independent of the cold junction, whereas the temperature of inversion depends upon the cold junction by the relation that the temperature of inversion is as much above the neutral temperature as it is as your cold junction is below it. So it is as much above the neutral temperature as it is below the cold junction. So this is the relation. So if you rearrange it, you will end up with the relation that T, this you can take Tn to this side, and you will obtain the relation for Tn to be equal to, Tn is equal to Ti plus Tc divided by 2. So you will have temperature of inversion can be easily obtained, and the cold junction temperature can be easily measured, and that you already know it also. So you have the temperature of neutral temperature can be found out from this equation Ti plus Tc divided by 2. So the plot which shows this the variation of thermo EMF with temperature of hot junction definitely fits for a parabola. So the EMF that is generated can be written as half into AT plus half into BT square. So this is fitted with a parabola with the equation A is equal to AT plus half BT square, where A and B are two constants which are determined by, which are the characteristic properties of the metals that we are using. So this is the parameter, this is the thermo EMF that is generated. So Seebeck coefficient is defined as, or Seebeck coefficient is actually the thermoelectric power that is generated in the thermocouple. So if you have a junction, that is you have a thermocouple A and B, AB, and you are heating it, preferably here heat, and here is the cold junction, and this is suppose copper iron, this is the direction of current that is flowing. And so this A and B is determined from the values of the choice of your material, copper and iron. So suppose these are kept at same temperature, say T Kelvin, and you are giving a temperature difference, a small temperature to your hot junction. Then this, due to this dt, you have a small change in your thermo EMF. So the rate of change of your thermo EMF with temperature for the T, for a given T, is termed as thermoelectric power. Thermoelectric power, or rather Seebeck coefficient, S. Seebeck coefficient. Thermoelectric power is nothing but Seebeck coefficient. So when you differentiate this equation, you can see that E is equal to dE by dt will be, dE by dt will be, is equal to A plus 2 and 2 get cancels, you have B into T. So what does this equation denote? So let's write this as S. So S is equal to A plus BT. So this is of the form Y equal to mx, or rather equation of a straight line. So the thermoelectric power, if you plot against temperature, you will end up with straight lines. For this is different for different metals. So you can have a plot, and from the plot, this B value is the slope of the curve and A is the intercept. So from this, A and B can be calculated. Laws of thermoelectricity. So there are certain two rules in thermoelectricity we generally follow, because as I said earlier, thermocouple means two metals. So is it strictly two metals? Can't we join two other metals to this thermocouple to form multiple junctions? Definitely we can form junctions like that, and when we form junctions like that, we need to understand that there is a law for this intermediate metals. So we are introducing metals intermediate to these junctions. Suppose you have junctions like this, A, B and B to C, then A to C. The voltage developed across this junction, let's term it as VAB. B and C can be termed as VBC and VAC. So if you are going to measure the voltage across this A and C, you can always say that VAC will be the sum of these VAB and VBC. So that you can just add the voltage, that is the EMF that is developed in these thermocouples, to give you the value, or VAC will always be the sum of these thermo EMF that is generated in the intermediate metals that is placed between any two thermocouples. Similarly, this is known as the law of intermediate metals. Intermediate metals. Similarly, we have law of intermediate temperature. Similarly, if you are having two junctions and let's say one junction, first junction, second one and third one, then V13 can be written as V12 plus V123. V23. So the sum of these, if you have intermediate metals, you just add the EMF, will be the final EMF of your A and C. Similarly, V13, that is between A and C, can be the that is the temperatures. That is, I have written V here itself because it is representing the voltage or thermo EMF corresponding to these temperatures of these two junctions. So you just add the temperatures. Similarly, you add the EMF. So this is the law of intermediate metals and law of intermediate temperature. The next effect which we are going to discuss is Peltier effect. It was discovered by Peltier, and it is again a discovery which was done after the Seebeck effect. And on studying the Seebeck effect, Peltier, who was a watch repairer, he investigated that if this could be true, the reverse, what about the reverse? That is, if you are giving a temperature gradient to two junctions and an EMF is producing, then why not we give supply and EMF, and what happens to these junctions? So he studied that, and so in this junction A and B, what he is, that is, he introduced a voltage in the circuit, and he saw that as the EMF is, as you introduce a voltage in this loop, a current starts to flow, and because of the current, one end becomes heated and the other end becomes cold, or heat is released and absorbed at the two junctions because of this supply. If you do not have a supply, the temperature remains the same, and if you introduce a supply, he saw that there is an energy release and energy absorption in the case of the same thermocouple. Or this effect also is reversible if you change the direction of your voltage. That is, the current will start to flow through this junction. Again, if it is copper and iron, the current in the hot junction, as before, this flows from like this, because of the potential difference, copper to iron, the current flows, and the junction which was cold in the Seebeck effect seems to be releasing heat, in this case in the Peltier effect, and vice versa. It is because of the potential, inbuilt potential of the copper and the iron metal. So all these effects can be very briefly explained using free electron theory based on the Fermi level of these two of the metals that is taking part in the thermocouple. So Peltier effect says that an EMF is developed. So he defined a coefficient that which is denoted as pi. It is the amount of heat energy that is liberated or absorbed when unit charge flows through the given junction. So suppose there is a unit charge, means if there is Q charge that is flowing through a particular junction, then Q into pi will be the amount of the heat that is generated or released or absorbed. So what is Q? If I is the current that is flowing in time t, Q will be I into t. So this is pi into I into t, where t is the time, and pi is known as the Peltier coefficient. I is the current that is flowing through the circuit. So this arrangement is much familiar with, or you can find this the familiarity with respect to the Joule's heating. Joule's heating. What is Joule's heating? Joule's heating is nothing but when you have a conductor and you are passing current through that, your heat is developed inside the conductor. So that is one of the major disadvantage of using conductors for your transmission and all those things. So you have I squared R is that is the heat that is generated in a given conductor having resistance R. So you can see that there in Joule's heating the current, the power that is proportional to I square, whereas in the case of Peltier heating it is only proportional to the current I. So there is another difference. There are various differences between Joule's effect and your Peltier effect, even though it looks very familiar. That is, you have a supply, you just pass current through the given conductor and heat is generated or heat is absorbed or liberated. So you can see that in this case you have one junction is getting cold, the other junction is getting heated. Whereas in Joule's heating this doesn't happen. The entire conductor gets heated rather than one end becoming cold and the other end becoming hot. And that is one of the differences between Joule's heating and Peltier effect, or Joule's effect and Peltier effect. That is, throughout the conductor it is heated, whereas in Peltier effect it is one end will be cold, the other end will be heated, or you have a difference in temperature between the junctions. And another factor is the I square value, in which it is depending on I square, whereas in the case of Peltier it depends only on the current. And then another difference between Peltier and Joule's is that if you reverse the voltage, the current reverses in the case of a Peltier effect. Whereas in the case of Joule's effect, there is no change in direction of the current. It's only a one-way, unidirectional. So there is no change in the direction of the current. And you have only uniform heating throughout the conductor. So that is a major difference between the Peltier effect and Joule's effect. So you cannot replace Joule's heating by Peltier effect, but this thermocouples find very good application in refrigeration. So you can cool the system by using the Peltier effect. That is, one end is getting cold, so you can use a coil of this Peltier, this thermocouple to generate, or instead of any thermocouple is behaving like a heat engine. So you can use this to refrigeration purpose. Peltier cooling can be used for many applications.